All right. This one I pulled because it's going to be a little bit of a shameless plug because Daddy needs to get paid. And so that is going to tell you why you should come pay him. But it's how do I become more confident in front of people? Now, that could mean a few different things, right, Joe? Sometimes people just get nervous around other people, which is one of my little triggers. I don't know. I've never, for the most part, I've never tried to be intimidating, and I can gauge to the company I'm with. So if people get overwhelmed quickly or like little kids, I can tone it down, right? I take efforts to be quiet. But when somebody's just nervous around people, they just can't look in the eye and stuff. I don't know how to help you with that. That sounds like a psychological thing going on. But if it is more of, I don't want to be nervous if I have to give a presentation. I don't want to be nervous if I get called. Like we're going into a con this weekend, and somebody wants to get up to the microphone and ask a question. Yeah, it's a random kid. Look at you, random kid. You become more confident by taking courses from Charles and Wyzant. That's Wyzant. Absolutely. I have a public speaking class up there. But so let's talk about it, Joe. Let's not a class so much that I will plug. I'll probably cut part of this video out to promote it. But what about you, Joe? Did you ever have a problem not being as confident in front of people?
So I guess it depends on the
I'm
context.
glad you said that. So I got some tips. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, so like there's different avenues and different contexts for where you would be in front of somebody. Like
Right.
I've spoken at church, I've spoken at school, I've spoken at conventions, at things like that. And there's various levels of comfort and confidence in those moments. And definitely as a teenager, I struggled, but part of that was probably due to a lack of preparation, to be completely blunt. Because
Okay.
like when you're talking about presenting at school, if you're not confident in the material, that's going to come across in the presentation, and you won't be confident in the presentation itself. And so a lack of being prepared with the material can come across as an overall lack of confidence because, well, quite frankly, you're not confident. But in things where I feel I've got plenty to talk about, or there's not set in stone restrictions or things like that, I feel quite comfortable talking in front of people. Like even at church these days, I used to dread talking in church, but really,
Tell me about that. Tell me about when you were dreading speaking in church.
Well, again, it came from a lack of preparation attitude, whereas at this point I've served a mission trip. I've spent a lot of time with the gospel in general, and so I'm pretty comfortable in most topics when it comes to church topics. But just in addition to all of that, just I've done it so many times now that there's nothing, it's not new anymore. And so a lot of times it's
a good one.
Yeah. It's lack of experience, lack of preparation. I think those are the main two things that hinder people from being confident speakers.
I agree 100%. And I'm a big proponent of Toastmasters. I like that group. I don't remember if I had to pay much of a fee. Sometimes it's free. Sometimes it's very affordable if there's a fee. But the group, because it's an ongoing thing, and you get your own Toastmasters book. So everybody's at different levels working through the books. And so they'll have different nights, theme nights, or whatever. There's always like an icebreaker. It's wholly designed to be a supportive atmosphere, to give constructive criticism, like here's what you did great, and here's what I would like you to work on, type of deal, because we're all working on something together in that atmosphere. And I really enjoyed it. And there were some school teachers there. There was an insurance salesman there. I was just trying to get more refined to be on stage and get away from the rambling that, John, you think you get the rambling Charles now. I've worked a lot. Now I do, especially before the show. It is just hang out and talk time. But I've worked hard on all of that. But practice makes perfect, and that's what goes on with the process through Toastmasters that I went through, and then everything else I've done. Like trying to remember the first celebrity that I moderated. That might have been Austin St. John, Red Ranger from Power Rangers. So here's all. Let's talk about that one. So I prepped, right? Prepared. I went and looked at the Wikipedia page. I went and looked at IMDb. I'm pulling out things to make sure I have something to ask that I find interesting. And that's the key. If you're having to give a speech, you've got to find a way to make it interesting. Because in that 10 speech book, and I completed the book and then just didn't go on to the next level. I had other things going on in life then. But I gave the 10 different speeches. And some of them I just didn't care about. But you have to find something that makes you care there. I personally like to throw in a joke to open things up. That's what I like to do. So I try to make myself laugh there. And get ready.
I think that also helps you gauge the room as well by trying to start with some kind of humor. Because you never know how the audience is going to be receptive. And so it'll help shift the tone or set the tone for the rest of the speech or the discussion or the talk. Yeah.
Yeah. And it does. Okay. It does depend on the type of presentation, what reason you're in front of people. If you've got to read, I know a lot of churches start with, can you read this passage today? Can you ask for do the offering prayer, that kind of thing, little things like that. Yeah. You kind of even need to practice your prayer, but isn't it supposed to be to God? Not when you're standing in front of people. God hears you all the time. He's cool, man. But when you're standing there, you need to make sure you don't do the whole daddy God filming kind of thing. You need to, that's a church thing.
Well, in that respect, it also depends on what religion you are, because there are very specific criteria for different religions.
Yeah.
And you need to be very specific in your prayers in different religions.
So again, practice. Now, that's the prep, right? I'm thinking of two different speeches I gave. Well, one was a hosting, it wasn't a speech, but the other one was a speech, my graduation speech, which is done in front of my dad's church, whatever. And then the Austin St. John thing. Well, you have to be what you really got to do is practice being okay with yourself. And that means finding a circle of friends who will give you grief, but then prop you up, right? Because you need to get punched in a safe space, not literally, hopefully, but you need to have all the fears.
Don't get punched in your safe places. Those are those.
This is my no safe place. But you know what I'm saying, Joe, it is growing up in the church, it was too easy to go in and be earnest and be well-meaning. And I want to sing a song and I hadn't practiced enough or whatever. And it wasn't, but everybody, oh, you did great. That's not a safe place. If they only hate you or they only love you, it's not, you need to be with somebody that you're like, okay, I'm going to boom, 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 boom. And then you need them to heckle you a little bit. You need them to drop things and distract things, because
see, I really like your distinction there on a safe place, because a safe place does not mean a place without criticism.
Right.
A safe place is a place where people want the best for you.
There you go. And that is, honestly, that's where coaching comes in. You know, if you pull me as a coach on Wise Ants and hire me, then that's exactly it. Is I'm here for your benefit, and I want to make it the best thing for you. That's how I do everything, honestly. And that's the thing. It does take confidence to get on a stage or get in front of people. It takes a lack of ego to do that. And those are two opposite things. The ego is making it all about me, but you got to make it about the show. You got to make it about what you're doing. So the speech I gave as a homeschooler graduating, I hated it. I lied through the whole thing. I hated it. And I was like, oh, I've enjoyed, thank you for all the support from the church. I didn't know half the people in that church. They didn't know me. It was a dark time. I was a very angry teenager. But I wrote this speech and I basically read it. And everybody, they were tearing up. I mean, it showed me the power of manipulation. Because if you do a great speech with great emotion that doesn't say anything, you get elected president of the United States, apparently.
Well,
That's every president. That's every president.
That's yeah. We have had plenty of presidents who have been very good at giving speeches, and throughout history, politicians in general. It is well known that Hitler was a fantastic person
master orator,
at giving speeches, and whipping people up into frenzies to do unspeakable things. But that doesn't just because he used his powers for evil does not mean he wasn't a very skilled speech giver.
And so I don't know how to follow Hitler, but I'm gonna try.
I'm gonna put a public service announcement. You're not supposed to follow Hitler.
This is why I've been cut off the show for a while now. I get it. I understand my mistake, Joe. I apologize. And that is true. You can the power of words, and I realized in life I want to be authentic, and when I became authentic, man, the mess ups don't matter. The distractions don't matter. Being able to keep yourself on track and playing video games will help with this. How, you asked, Joe? Thanks for asking.
Yes. Yeah. My eyebrow rose, and I should have vocalized because the people on the podcast, they can't see that eyebrow going up. How does playing video games help you become a more confident speaker?
Of all thank you for asking. Of all with the 15,000 people who listen to the podcast, they could show up and see the eyebrow, or go to WNN Clips, right? It's WNN Clips was WNN Clips, and just get those little hot bumps. And TikTok, we'll talk about that later. Because it's multitasking, right? You're playing, it can be Mario Kart, it can be just about any kind of video game. Something goes wrong and you got to adjust. So what you want to do is maybe practice your speech and record it, and then play it back while you're playing a video game and you're listening to it, right? Because your brain is adjusting to the different things that are happening on the screen. It doesn't matter what's happening. You're adjusting while you're processing. And there's two things that are psychological principles. I'm only going to talk about the one. Listening does play into this, but it's the visual of that's why we yawn. If you see somebody yawn, your brain yawns. If you see somebody drink water, you might become thirsty. So I'm not looking at you, Joe. I've defeated some of the tactics, my friend. But it's a trick. Our brain can't always distinguish what we see being imaginary, like on TV or whatever, versus what's really going on. Dang it, I'm about to yawn, you jackbutt.
And I didn't even really yawn, but you saw it.
I watched. Let me tell you. Go ahead.
And your advice was completely different than what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to be talking about speaking in confidence to bring order from the chaos that are these teenagers that are speaking about unspeakable horrors that they want to do to your family members. You know, I had no idea where you were going to go with it. I thought you were going to marshal the crew, band of brothers.
Where did all this darkness come from? Jebediah, blink if you feel safe. I don't understand. I don't understand the horrors of teenagery. But
then you haven't played enough online video games with voice chats.
Oh no! Don't go online while you're doing this. Play something local on your local machine or your phone, okay? Because you're using two different parts of your brain, and that's important. You're listening and it's internalizing, and your brain is going, okay, I hear my voice, I'm giving the speech. You're feeling like you're giving the speech. But you're also, with your eyes, doing the things on the screen, and your hands, and you're adjusting. And why that's important is go ask, I don't even think it's a Southern Baptist preacher thing, Joe. It's probably every church. About the time they get right to their point, wah, crying baby. or somebody's getting up to go to the bathroom, or you got the wooden pews and somebody lets one rip. Right, boys? Right, boys? You've heard it. That's why you go to kids' church.
The pews, they have such a good amplifying feature.
They really do. So what you do is you have to, so that's one thing, right? And then the other thing I'll talk about real quick, because I feel like we're going long, is we might make this a series. We need to actually teach something about how do I. That's what it's designed for. We've never quite gotten there, but I think, Joe, between you and me, we can start really teaching some things for dads and people out of this. So I'll leave it at that one. Practice distractions by recording your speech, and you're going to hate it. Number one, because almost everybody hates their own voice the first time they hear it. I think I was the exception to that rule because everybody else in
And
this
that's
world
why
I've
he's
met,
never shut up.
right? Everybody else, I mean, I hate it when I can't hear my own voice, to be honest with you. And I tap my headphones for the podcast people. But it's, don't worry about that. You have to get used to it because everybody, you hear it differently than other people hear it. But you might hear, like I did when I started recording mine, it's like, oh my God, I didn't realize I did so many fillers. Then you can focus on editing that in your brain. You just practice. Then you just got to go do it and power through and go, okay, that was an experience. And that brings me right back around to preparing for Austin St. John. His plane arrived late. He flew in that morning. He had the first panel. His plane landed late, getting his bags, getting into the car, getting from the airport to the Georgia World Congress Center. We were 15 minutes late starting. So I didn't get to talk to him before and connect with him like I try to do with everybody.
And that makes a big difference when you're on a panel because you've got a very brief window usually to build a little bit of a repertoire with them and to feel them out and see how to jive with them.
Yeah, and I prepped the questions, which is a good thing because this is my first year at that con. It was the first year they did the con. And I'm thinking, oh, Red Power Ranger. Even though it's like 11 a.m. on a Friday morning, which is not when you put a Red Power Ranger. Unless you're Dragon Con, that's a whole different ballgame. Anyway, auditorium can fit like 2,000 people. 20 people showed up. It was empty. They had their mics, all the speakers were pointed out at the concrete walls. So even at the microphone, we couldn't hardly hear the question. What could go wrong pretty much went wrong, just about.
Oh, boy.
And I had 3 more interviews to do that weekend, hosting, moderating, whatever you call it, that weekend. And like, okay, well, that one was rough. Let's see if it gets better. And it did. So that's my advice right now of how you get more confident. And we focused on speaking. But, Joe, we need to think about how to get more confident in future episodes, how to get more confident in just being in front of people. And we'll put the call out. If you're listening to the show, you know somebody. You're listening, but you know somebody like this who I don't mean social anxiety. We're not doctors. We can get a psychiatrist to come on and maybe talk to us about some of that stuff. But that whole, if you get called upon to speak. Now, we're from the South. In public, in the South, it's, hey, would you say the blessing? Would you say the prayer? Which I hate for various reasons, and it's none of them are religious based. But, if you get called on to say something, you got to give a presentation. We can help you feel more confident. And, Joe, tell me about the worst one that you went through. Go ahead, tell your thought, but I want you to finish the segment with your story.
So my thought is, the way you build confidence with almost any skill is you have to be willing to be bad at it first.
Yes.
Because if you don't even have enough confidence to start, or at least be willing to start, then you're not going to build any kind of expertise to be confident in it. So you've got to be willing to be bad at it first. Now, as far as stuff that went poorly, it's got to be one of the talks that I gave at church. Because what they do, at least at my church, is they'll give you a topic that you're supposed to talk on. They give you a time limit that, hey, this is about how long you're supposed to take. And I remember when I was a teenager, they asked me to speak for like 10 minutes. And I don't remember what the topic was, but when you're nervous, even if you've got stuff prepared and in front of you, you tend to speak faster than you normally would. Like, one of the first things that people will tell you when you're doing any kind of public speaking, slow it down. Slow it down, because you're speaking faster than you think you are. And so at home, when I practiced it, it was 8 to 10 minutes. When I actually got up on the pulpit and was talking, it was like 5 minutes. And so I got done and I sat down, and what that ends up doing, at least at our church, is it means that the next speakers have to try to, because what they normally do at my church is, if they have a youth speaker, a teenage speaker, they put them first, and they tell the people afterwards, they're like, okay, the youth speaker is supposed to take 10 minutes. If they take 10 minutes, yours is going to take about 25 minutes. but plan for 25 to 30. And so
Yeah.
they want the adult to be able to create a buffer, because they know that a lot of the youth will go shorter than what they were asked to do.
You're right. Everybody ramps up that speed, and that's the other thing that Toastmasters does is you have a minimum time you have to hit, a target time, and a long time, and then over the long time, and it'd be like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, and if you go over 8 minutes, it depends on the situation, right? So, yeah, like that, and I do in most cases tend to watch the clock and get excited, and I'll catch it, and I'll bring it down, and I'll slow it down intentionally, and I can feel. Except the first time we did Wise and Nerdy at Dragon Con, it was just my mind was all over the place with the bits, and that is the thing too. As good as you can get about something, when you change it up, when you change up the emotions on it, for me, it was I was afraid people weren't going to like Wise and Nerdy. We were brand new at doing that particular show, and I really liked it. And Joe was he was an okay friend. He could have been a better friend and been like, just tap me. It's like, hey man, I want to tell more stories, because you realize it's going fast. I didn't. So, but yeah, it's okay.
True. You were cruising. But we had a good audience that round, particular one. And so when it came to bad dad jokes, we had a lot of bad dad jokes. That was a lot of fun. And we also had a lot of people participating in the "What Are You Nerding Out About" segment, so for a lot of you haven't had the privilege of seeing us live, but we usually have the audience talk about what they're nerding out about, especially about the convention that we're at, or other things that we've been talking about. And so that particular time, we were able to fill the time quite easily because we had great audience participation. And that's something that's another skill that you build. And it depends on the format, because a lot of formats, they don't lend for audience participation. But in ones that do, that is a great skill. Being able to read the room and work with the room is a huge skill in public speaking when the format allows for it.
Absolutely. So let's roll some dice. And I hit the wrong button. Let's see this. There you go. My WiseAnt code is wiseant.com/tutors/help others be awesome. I may change that later, but right now that's where I'm at.